The next problem I'm going to do is problem number 56. Problem 56 has us approximating definite integrals. Okay, so first step is to sketch. Then it's going to have us put them in a regular partition, which means equal subintervals. It wants us to calculate the left-hand Riemann sum and the right-hand Riemann sum and determine which one is the over and the under estimate. For problem 56, the integral is from 0 to pi halves of cosine x dx with 4 subintervals. So what I did is I drew the first quadrant portion of the cosine graph with 4 subintervals. Our partition size is b minus a over n, which is pi halves, minus 0 over 4, which is pi eighths. So my first interval goes to pi eighths, then to pi 4 eighths, then to pi halves. And I repeated it for the two graphs I'm going to do for the left-hand and right-hand Riemann sum. Once I do that, I actually sketch my my left hand and my right hand. That way, when I go to do the math, I make sure that I'm using the right information. And I can already answer part D. My right-hand Riemann sum is going to be an estimate because each of my rectangles is underneath the curve. And my left-hand Riemann sum is going to be an overestimate. So on this board, we're going to go from our first to our fourth subinterval for both of these. I'm going to do the right-hand Riemann sum first. And again, my points are coming from the formulas from the first section of our chapter. And when you really don't have to think about this formula, but I'd like you to get used to writing the formula down. So if we are doing right-hand Riemann sums, what is the right-hand point of our first rectangle? Okay, it's going to be pi eighths. Then what's the right-hand point of the second rectangle? Pi fourths, then 3 pi eighths, then pi halves. So what this says is sum of all of that times delta x. And we know delta x is pi eighths. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the pi eighths, and then I'm going to write my sum in expanded notation. So it's the cosine of the first point plus the cosine of the second point plus the cosine of the third point plus the cosine of the fourth point. Okay? And my first point is going to be at pi eighths. So 0 plus 1 times pi eighths is pi eighths. 0 plus 2 times pi eighths is pi fourths. Then 3 pi eighths. And then pi halves. So I do need to see this step on a test. Then the next thing I want to see, if they are exact values that you have memorized. For example, pi 4, cosine of pi fourths is the square root of 2 over 2. Cosine of pi halves is 0. I expect you to write those down and be in the exact form. You remember from trig or don't remember from trig, we can use the half angle formula. We can come up with the exact value for pi eighths and 3 pi eighths. If I were to give you this problem on a test, it would be one of those that I asked you to round to 4 decimal points. Actually, I'm going to have you round it like 3 decimal points, so I'm going to carry 4 decimal points all the way through. So cosine of pi eighths is approximately 0.9239. Square root of 2 over 2 is approximately 0.7071. Cosine of 3 pi eighths is 0.3827, approximately. So this is an exact, well, all of these are going to be approximates because I'm doing just a small amount of subintervals. Next thing I want to do is I want to add up the sum inside of the parentheses. So I will use my calculator. clear. 0.9239 plus 0.7071 plus 0.3827 plus 0. That would be 2.0137 times pi eighths. And I get approximately 0.791. And whatever the unit would happen to be. And like we said before, that is going to be an underestimate. We're going to repeat the same thing for the left-hand Riemann sum. The left-hand Riemann sum, our first point, when k is 1, it's going to be a plus 0 times delta x, so that's 0. So it's going to start at the left-hand margin. Again, I'm going to pull the 1 pi eighths out in front, times the cosine of 0, plus the cosine of pi eighths, plus the cosine of pi fourths, plus the cosine of 3 pi eighths, substitute what these are. Cosine of 0 is 1. Cosine of pi eighths is 0.9239, 0.7071, 0.3827. Add these up. I don't need a calculator this time, because if you notice, these are the three things I added last time, and then I'm just adding 1 to it. So I'm going to add 1 to my sum. I get 3.0137. Multiply that times pi eighths. 3.0137 times pi divided by 8. That's approximately 1.183. So if it is a trig function and we know the exact values, read your questions carefully. It may want an exact value. Otherwise, I will end up telling you what I want you to round to. So that is problem number 56.